the key point is this: if you are dealing with a national asset, the process is not just so much of the investment side of it, it's also about confidence building, to know that the assets of the country is being judiciously. Look at what we did with NITEL. What if we are just giving it to Femi, Egbe, and yourself, and said we've allocated to the boys? We would be struggling today with our telecom sector. Well, we did that through proper bill.
Job for the boys.
And we did it very well, and it's working. And people can hold them accountable. You don't see people saying that, oh, these people got a wrong thing. You know, everybody saw the whole process. They bidded. Those who did not bid, I said, oh, we lost out. But that's what you do with your national assets. It is so imperative. It is a minimum requirement.
What is the position with Warri and Kaduna?
We haven't gotten there. We deal with the big tickets, and then we go there. But, you know, to be frank with you, let's put this in context. People are hurting. There are villages in Nigeria who don't have electricity. There are people who struggle with things like petroleum products. There are more cheaper and more alternative forms of electricity which are available, which we can also explore. The larger conversation we should be having is to have that grand plan, vision for the Nigerian energy sector that will comprise gas, oil, alternative forms of renewable and sustainable energy. And once we have that clarity, you can attract investment because you already have the market base here. In the situation where we have start, stop, the real change that needs to happen is that we have learned from all this thing. It is not sustainable. Then now the Senate will go around trying to do some investigation. It will take another 3-4 days. Different interests will come in. That need not happen. The ministry has the right, like I said, under the Infrastructure Concession Establishment Act, to actually issue concessions on any of these, whatever. All it needs to do is to publish in 3 widely read newspapers the bid. And so nobody will say, in fact, you might even go on for that and also make it available on his website so that international people can also come in. They can also do something. They can actively issue out their criteria of what they want, set out their goals. We want you to build and even expand within so much time. And then those things are clear. And then if they do the bid and they say this person wins, nobody should come forward and say, no, I wasn't given a fair shot at investing. Now, does it mean that these gentlemen are incompetent or not? No, that's not the question. The question is, if the process through which you emerge is not credible, we can't hold you accountable tomorrow. And let's look at the bright side of it. We have an ERGP that talks about this is where Nigeria wants to be, right? That's the overarching plan. We would then have to know that there are certain critical elements in there, maybe 6 of them. Agriculture, for example, which is not our father's agriculture. We're talking about the agri-business.
Mechanized.
Yeah, huge one. Even within the agri-business, you are talking about special areas of core competencies. In the Nigerian geographical space, there are areas that are better in one area or the other. So that plan is out there, and then you put it out for everybody. You're talking about energy. You're talking about roads. Basically, infrastructure. The infrastructural gap in Nigeria is so huge that our budget cannot fund it. Yeah. So the government recognizes, and rightfully so, that the private sector and the public sector are not going to work as 2 separate people. We're going to work together. One sets the rules of the game, the other are able to attract the investment, and they deliver on it. That is a fine approach to go. And like I said, what Dr. Ibekachukwu I believe, was seeking to do was to fast-track the process as well by using a repair, operate, and maintain, rather than outright privatization, which is a middle-of-the-road approach. Also very good. What is missing is that no matter how good the intentions are, if the process cannot provide for transparency and accountability, we would have a problem down the line.
Did you read the clarity as posted by Orlando?
I not only read it, I dissected it.
Okay. So when you say there no process whatsoever, and then the Minister of Petroleum, State for Petroleum, talks about taking up
Oando tell you that they bidded along with others? Did Oando say to you they were invited to bid?
Mr. Oyemi, tell us, how did Oando acquire this job?
The real person who should tell you that is Alex himself, who wrote that. Because I would like to know how a national asset was handed over to them. I would also
because
like to
you haven't seen anywhere that the bid was thrown open.
You're not talking about a market stall. You're talking about a refinery with a history of having gone through those. You of all people, you've known the stories you've read so many times here about turnaround maintenance that never went anywhere. They'll do the turnaround maintenance, we go. Now, look, they want to do a wholesome package. It's also good to communicate to people to let us know that this process is not just a one-off thing. They will repair, they will maintain, they will even increase capacity, and it will be sustainable, and the government does not have to come and put money back again tomorrow or be making excuses. That is the end goal which everybody wants, right?
Mm-hmm. Okay, let me take you, let's just go back a bit. You use an example of the telecom industry in Nigeria.
Yeah.
But you also know that within that open processes and the bidding processes were properly done. As you said, we had the telecom industry pick up, and Nitel shut down, and we have all this, we have GSM everywhere. But you also know that about some companies shut down and had to leave. And recently there was out there in the media that some of the processes that led to an Econet leaving Nigeria or some other companies, you know, the name changed several times.
Mm-hmm. Econet had an internal problem.
Was it an internal problem? It had nothing to do with the process? But that's just one. That's just one company. What are the other companies?
Yeah. It's still existing.
But what about the other companies? Are they the only company that has left Nigeria? I mean, the telecom sector.
Look, the bidding process.
Nitel was sold for a while. It was reversed.
Look, you can nitpick as you want, but you have to separate something. The process, as distinct from how they run the company going forward. The process was to give licenses to you to provide it. The NCC kept on making sure that along the way, he managed the whole process. That it's not just we give you the license and give you the concession you've won, but they took them through when they wanted them to have mast. Okay. They insisted they wanted them to have this. Those were part of the guidelines in place.
I'm going somewhere. So that's that angle of midwifing the process, right?
Obviously.
Midwifing the process.
Obviously.
That didn't happen in the power sector. And now, as you said, we're having complaints from the operators, from the government, and from the...
Everybody is complaining. Okay. And you see, when everybody is complaining, it's just like what I've described. If you look at that process through which everybody emerged, it was more like allocation rather than competitive bidding. If you find a situation whereby your Gencos are complaining, your Discourse are complaining, the customers are complaining, the government is complaining. So who is
the matter of processes? Is it possible for us to insulate our processes from our politics?
Well, that may be tough, but this goes to the question of institutions, having institutions. If trust matters to you, and it does matter in investment, in mobilizing people, in encouraging the public to buy into what you're doing, trust is critical. You then have to have institutions that are able to conduct themselves. I'll give you one example. What NCC did under NS Ndukwe, who stood by and insisted that with the organizational structure, NCC is still standing today. They may not be perfect, but they continue to inch forward to allow us to have data, voice. They move forward to make sure that data was available. They kept us competitive within the African space. And that goes to the credibility of the whole process. Since then, other players emerged, like a Tisalat came in. Since other than Vodafone came in. You understand? People are able to enter and exit. That is a credible system.
We did have expectations when those refinery licenses were given out, 6, 7 years ago? And all those expectations have been dashed.
Well, I don't know whether I had expectations. Because there were no clear targets. There are no clear targets. You just gave licenses. You didn't say, oh, hopefully you are expected to build within 2
X years.
Again, that's what I mean by clarity. There must be clarity for you to have a reasonable basis for expectation. The fact that they gave licenses out without any compulsion, any time limit to construct, any time limit to take off, it doesn't make any difference. The question you should ask is, what did anybody do with those licenses? What were they entitled to with those licenses? Because they couldn't have held on to licenses without doing anything with it.
But when you said, what did they do with the licenses? There were stories out there that some of them used the licenses to go to the banks to seek for funding. But the banks wouldn't even give the funding that they needed.
Some banks gave.
Some banks give.
Do you know what it means to have an oil refinery license? That's an actual ticket to money. So that's a guaranteed investment.
Yeah, but just one moment, Mr. William. Before you go and seek to have a license, wouldn't you have done your backroom work first and make sure that everything is in order so that as soon as you get your license, you move into action? So you take that license to the bank. That's kind of like medicine after death. You've got the license. Now you're looking for who's going to fund it. You should have looked for that before you went to look for the license, don't you think?
The first statement we made was that if there's no clarity, if there's no due process, if there's no transparency, what you end up
what happens
are things like this.
You talked about we've done concession in Nigeria. There are models of concessions that have been carried out in Nigeria and have been successful. Now, the question will be, would the government be committed to that concession?
No, this thing is not, we can't reinvent the wheel. Some concessioning works particularly with certain sectors. Some models work with certain sectors better than with others. But we're talking about the oil industry. It's been around forever.
And we want to revamp it.
And there are models, there are best practices around it. Now, there's nothing we're reinventing here. So let's just stick to the best practice. That's it. There's not, the critical thing is this, which is the takeaway. One administration gives an award, another administration comes and reverses it. One administration gives a job, another one comes in and does a probe. One administration does one job, another comes in and puts the FCC around everybody. At some stage, this normalization of absurdity has to end at some stage, because it's just like a revolving door. There's no progress, there's motion, no movement. And so the thing we would like to see, which I believe is also what government is seeking to achieve, is that let us look at the tripod upon this thing: regulation, ease of doing business, transparency, and accountability. That way you don't have to start fighting corruption, because you've already addressed that at the on stage.
At the beginning.
And so it makes everything work. It makes you want to take risk. See, the critical thing about an investment climate is not the absence of risk, it's your ability to quantify that risk, mitigate it, and leverage upon it for you to get a just reward. And that's what business is like. If the risks are such that they cannot mitigate, then they don't invest. But the greatest risk is that there needs to be that trust factor, which is what we call about the transparency process. It's not like we are calling everybody, Femi and Co, to come and bid. We will not qualify. Certain people will not qualify. The pre-qualification is critical. Just publish it and it's out. The process is announced and it's gone. And you can see what we've done. We've done these examples in different other aspects of the country that has worked. In those areas we don't do it, we always suffer. So I think the takeaway for us is about the importance of the process in building a trust and an investment climate, that accountability is already pre-worked into the process. It's not something we do afterwards. It's something that's been pre-worked. And that is the benefit the private sector brings into this whole game, to raise it. And to be honest, there are competent, solid professionals inside the public sector, especially in this particular sector, who understand how these things are done. We should just do it.